Hey everyone, the UK just had a by-election and actually Nigel Farage's Reform Party did pretty well considering the circumstances. I think that he's using a strategy that we've seen employed actually by the far left at times within the United States. When the Justice Dems decided to get more directly involved in the Democratic Party's political machinery, what they did is they picked off districts in which they were safely Democratic, but at the same time, the incumbent was weak. The incumbent was, not far left enough for the established order within that demographic population. Farage seems to have adapted this in a somewhat different way by going after vulnerable Tories mainly and picking them off in areas where Labor can't really compete, and then, amassing mayoral seats, MP positions, and so forth, and has actually become the only legitimate threat to the Lib-Lab-Con sort of establishment status quo, actually, for some time. UKIP, of course, that was under Farage as well, accomplished its goal of Brexit. But that was basically a single issue platform. Now you've got the UK Reform Movement, and the Reform Party stands for, hey, can we actually have conservative policies? Instead of just basically being Labour light, seems to be working. Seems to resonate with people in certain rural and small town parts of England. If he can, therefore, proceed and do this for long enough if it can be sustained. And oftentimes political movements like that, they begin to collapse in on themselves because there isn't a sustained effort. He seems to be a good organizer, though, so in the end, might actually prevail, might actually become a major national party, actually, which would be funny. And since the conservative movement in England is not conservative, and the labor movement are a bunch of socialists. It seems like maybe a sensible alternative, sort of like a British version of the MAGA movement, would definitely be called for. And Farage is personal friends with Trump and so forth, so you've got that as well. You've got international help potentially for your cause on social media. The political orthodoxy, therefore, has been upended. It was a significant change in the political system in the UK that we just saw, and I think that it's a positive one. Look, the UK is suffering from a number of problems. First, you have the European Union breathing down your neck all the time because you dared to break away from it. So, your allies aren't really acting like allies, at least in the economic sense anyway. You've got problems with mass migration, a lack of assimilation of the people migrating into your country, even when they're doing so legally. And generally speaking, and I get to talk to a lot of British people because, I'm a YouTuber and shit. So I get to talk to a lot of people in the UK. Generally speaking, they seem to be rather upset with the current political situation because the so-called conservative opposition doesn't act conservative, and the mainline party that's actually calling the shots is effectively close to being a communist party, except on immigration, which I think they ceded that issue for political reasons more than anything else. It appears, at least from the outside looking in. And so I'm not surprised that Nigel Farage, who clearly has even higher political ambitions than he's already achieved, I'm not surprised that he swooped in and said, well, I'm going to offer people a third way, so to speak, so that they can get away from this dichotomous political orthodoxy that you've currently got. Because again, UKIP was really only about securing Brexit. And there was that famous speech. I loved it. The day after, when he shows up in Brussels and he gives a speech, he's like, "Good morning," and a lot of people are booing him, and it was really, really funny. And he was basically trolling them. He was doing a victory lap. I found that endearing, actually. He's the sort of person that you'd go to the pub with and have a beer. Can't do that with Trump because he's a teetotaler. I suppose that he would take the non-alcoholic option. He'd be drinking seltzer water while eating his Big Mac or something like that. Maybe not the life of the party, at least in that sense. But Farage has successfully upended the UK's political orthodoxy. Now, this is basically local elections that we're looking at. So it's not exactly, I mean, it's a groundswell on the local level, which is what you need to establish a long-lasting political movement, by the way. So that's the good news. The bad news is right now, The Reform Party still doesn't have a great deal of power, like within Parliament or anything like that. But when you build that local momentum, if you can sustain it, it's sort of like making a fire. You don't just create a roaring bonfire by snapping your fingers. You have to light a few small pieces of tinder first, and then it grows, and then you stack more wood on it, and then eventually you get your bonfire. That's the whole goal. I think that's basically what Farage is doing. It's basically slow and steady wins the race, number one, and number two, sort of nicking off the ideas of certain other political movements that have done friggin' the same thing. They start out with local activism. And then they go up from there. Now, you have to have patience, you have to have time, you have to have a sustained effort. I think that he's studied those movements and it clicked in his head, well, I think I know how to do this. Whether he's successful in the end or not remains to be seen. You can expect the British establishmentarians to do what the German establishmentarians are doing with AFD, by the way. They will seek to suppress it, to suppress free expression, to suppress fundraising, to spy on their political adversaries because they're the ones that currently hold the machinations of power. You can expect that to be done to Nigel Farage's people, by the way. And they'll try to entrap them in scandals and everything else. Everything intrigue related within politics that can be thrown at the Reform Party will be thrown at the Reform Party. They're doing this in Germany. They've done this in the United States. Look at what's happened to multiple people that are associated with the populistic uprising within the Republican Party, which is outside of the Uniparty's core, generally speaking. Over and over again, it happens again. Show me the man, I'll show you the crime. It's just about differential enforcement. Every politician in DC has committed felonies, but you only investigate the ones that you don't like if you hold the rungs of power now, don't you? That's about all. Peace out.